Get it going. All right, so work-based learning. Okay. So the work-based learning guidelines are, excuse me, in the staff online resources, and these guidelines can be for both the case manager and the worksite supervisor. We used to have them separated, but now it's just one set of guidelines. And this says these will be updated and released by the beginning of March. That didn't happen because we have lots of people who like to review these things. So we are in the process of working on getting these updated. When they do, we'll send out an email to everyone and they'll be updated in the staff resources. So just a little bit about work-based learning. The work-based learning program serves WIOA eligible youth ages 16 to 24 in 6 of the local areas, and north, where y'all are, is included in this. So what is work-based learning? It's a planned, structured learning experience that takes place in a workplace for a limited period of time. It may take place in the private for-profit sector, the nonprofit sector, or the public sector. Work-based learning provides the youth participant with opportunities for career exploration and skill development. So if you are placing a participant in work-based learning, you have to remember to include academic and occupational education. You can't just stick them in a work-based learning experience and they get nothing else. They have to coincide with some kind of educational something. It can occur at the same time, before or after, but it's got to all go together. Each area must expend no less than 20% of the funds allocated to them to provide in-school youth and out-of-school youth with paid and unpaid work experiences. Now, that does not mean you have to spend 20% of your budget. It just means the area as a whole has to spend 20%. That money is already set aside for work-based learning before the contracts and the money is given out to each youth provider. So it's separate from your contract budgeted amount. So you can actually send participants to work-based learning and their wages can be paid without taking any of the money out of your specific contract. As far as the roles, I am with the Department of Workforce and the Workforce Development. We manage the overall program and provide any operational oversight and the fiscal management of it. You are all the case managers, the youth provider case managers. You're going to be the ones to recruit, review, and select the participant work sites. You also determine their eligibility when you're enrolling them and maintain their records in Alabama Works and ensure compliance with the WIOA activities. You also assist them with any career exploration. Make sure you're selecting the appropriate work sites and provide case management. You verify their time and attendance, approve time cards, and perform follow-up services. And then you are the ones that check the allowable jobs from Sirius and or contact Sirius to see if the job can be added. And I'll give you more information on how to do that. You also need to make sure you schedule an on-site visit with the participant prior to beginning the work-based learning assignment. Don't just pick a job site for them and send them there on their first day. It's the first time they've ever been there. These participants should have like no work experience at all. So don't scare them by just sending them somewhere. So make sure that you're reviewing the terms of the work-based learning worksite agreement that's available in the staff resources in Alabama Works. Review it with the worksite representatives. The worksite agreements must be completed and the youth certified eligible for WIOA before a participant can begin the job assignment. In some areas, we have instances where employers are just sending youth to youth providers and expecting them to start tomorrow, and you still have to go through the whole eligibility process and all with them. So just keep in mind that This worksite, the work-based learning is to help the participants gain some work experience and learn, not just for the work sites to fill jobs and get free labor. So to keep that in mind, there are specific forms for work-based learning. There's 4 of them. There's the serious placement form, the work-based learning worksite agreement, the work-based learning evaluation and training plan, and the participant information and guidelines receipt form. So this is the first one. It's the placement form from Sirius. You fill out the information that you have about the participant and the job. And then for this is the worksite agreement. The worksite needs to understand and adhere to the worksite agreement requirements. You keep a copy of they keep a copy of the agreement along with documentation of time, attendance, evaluations, and other relevant records. And then keep 1 worksite agreement per site, but it needs to be uploaded with each individual that you send to that site. And review the terms, including the supervision, non-displacement of employees, and compliance with laws, which is all included in the work-based learning guidelines. This is the training and evaluation plan. You need to develop and agree on a worksite job description and the training and evaluation plan. You also need this job description for the serious placement form. So if you've done the placement form, you can just put the same thing here. Here's some more about the forms, what they look like. There is a participant program information and guidelines receipt form. There's this is what they sign saying that they understand the guidelines, and this is a brochure that you can give them that's just like a quick overview of work-based learning. You don't have to upload the brochure, but you can give it to them, and then they sign this saying they received it and they understand. It goes over payroll information, safety, what they should and shouldn't do, just different things like that. These are the forms that you should upload: the workforce development placement form, the worksite agreement, the training and evaluation plan, and the participant requirements and expectations receipt form. You can do it as 1 document, just like you would eligibility. All right, for case managers, review all the required paperwork with employers and participants and upload the signed forms into the participant documents in Alabama Works. Blank forms are available in the staff resources. So the participant information guidelines, you review with the youth and have them sign. The training and evaluation form, you review it with the youth and the worksite, sign and upload. The worksite agreement is with the worksite. You have it signed and uploaded. And then the placement form, upload it after you send it to the WFO onboarding at SiriusStaffing.com. For case managers, this is the service code that you'll be entering for work-based learning. It's the 425 work experience paid, and the provider will always be Sirius Workforce. This is one of the few that won't be your youth program. It'll be Sirius. For the worksite job description, update the job description if the participant's duties change, and let Sirius know if the job description or the duties change. They are our payroll vendor, and they are the ones who are dealing with the workers' compensation and insurance and all that. So they are the actual employer on record. So if anything changes, they need to know. For the worksite supervisor, they're required to utilize the training and evaluation plan to assess the participant, their employability, workplace, and career-specific skills progress. These are required, the evaluations, and they're part of the participant skills development. So work sites that are non-compliant of these evaluation, if the evaluations are not completed, case managers must upload each participant's evaluations into their Alabama Works documents. If the participant works more than the amount of allowed hours, the work site must compensate the participant and reimburse workforce development if necessary. If the work site business fails to reimburse workforce development, The business, including all locations and work sites, will be barred from receiving any WIOA funding for work-based learning or on-the-job training for at least 2 years. So it's important that you and the work site is monitoring exactly how many hours the participants are working, and we'll go over how many they're allowed to in a little bit. So the worksite supervisor needs to provide an orientation to the workstations and the safety rules associated with work performance. They need to define clear expectations and standards for the youth participants. The youth should abide by the same worksite company policies as other employees. They shouldn't be treated different just because they are a temporary work-based learning employee. The supervisor should verify the time cards with the case managers, that's y'all, weekly, and immediately notify Sirius and the case manager in the event of a work-related accident or injury. Should immediately notify the case manager if a participant fails to report to work, and then schedule an on-site visit with the participant prior to beginning the work-based learning assignment. The supervisor should also assist in ensuring that work-based learning is beneficial to the participants. Don't just take on a work-based learning participant and then stick them in a room to just file all day or something. This should be beneficial to them, and they should learn something from the work-based learning experience. And then at least one supervisor should be at the participant's assigned work site during their work-based learning work schedule. They should not be left unsupervised. The supervisor should update the job description if their duties change, and they need to let you know. They should organize appropriate tasks and duties that contribute to the participant's professional growth and make sure they're providing constructive feedback, maintain the documentation related to the program, and then notify the case manager and participants immediately about changes in the work site supervisors and train the new work site supervisor if it's needed. So the worksite supervisor, for the orientation, they need to introduce the participant to the staff and provide a comprehensive description of the worksite and the job. They need to demonstrate tasks and conduct a supervised tryout, explain any safety rules, work schedules, break times, key information like that, outline any work rules, dress codes, expected behaviors, provide emergency procedures and injury reporting protocols, maintain emergency contact information for the participant. And then this is Sirius Workforce is our payroll vendor / employer of record. And this is their email address that you'll be sending this stuff. And you can ask them any questions. They respond very quickly and they're very easy to work with. So for work-based learning, the eligibility, the participants have to be determined WIOA eligible as in-school or out-of-school youth by a youth provider first. They have to be 16 to 24 years old, but there are a few other little eligibility things for work-based learning that are a little different from just basic WIOA eligibility. So for high school students must graduate before they can be placed in work-based learning. Proof of graduation or withdrawal forms should be uploaded to show the participant is not currently in high school. They should be ready for either full-time employment, OJT, or occupational skills training / like post-secondary when they complete work-based learning. For GED and alternative high school diploma participants, they can enroll in work-based learning while attending classes, but be ready for full-time employment or OJT or occupational skills training when they finish work-based learning. So work-based learning is only about 13 weeks, so they need to be towards the end and be finished with their GED when they finish work-based learning so they can move on to employment or further training. Participants in post-secondary or occupational skills training can enroll into work-based learning or OJT to the related certificate or degree once they complete. At the end of their work-based learning assignment, they must be enrolled in OJT or hired full-time employment. So make sure that if you do have someone that's in post-secondary, they can enroll, but they need to be done and then enroll them into work-based learning. And then they should roll into a job or something like that. For apprenticeships, apprentices can enroll in work-based learning at any time, but they have to follow all the policies. So for assessments, youth providers will conduct comprehensive assessments to determine work-based learning needs. These include TABE, ISS, all the normal things that you would normally do for WIOA eligibility. And this is going to help determine the work-based learning assignment to match the participant's career goals. So if all of the ISS and everything says that they would love to go into nursing, you shouldn't put them in a work-based learning assignment at like a manufacturer. It should correspond to what their goals are. Basic skills learning participants should receive some kind of remediation during their work-based learning assignment. For orientations, participants will receive and sign the participant program and information guidelines receipt, the worksite agreement, complete and review that with the worksite and upload it. For onboarding, you have to complete the serious placement form and send it to their email address and upload it with their forms. And then for the training evaluation plan, this is conducted at the beginning, at the midpoint at 195 hours, and at the end of their assignment. The worksite should complete the final one when the participant leaves, whether they completed their assignment or not, and then it's sent to the case manager to upload with the participant documents. You're probably going to have to remind them to do these. They don't just usually remember to do that. Case managers make sure you upload it each time it's completed. Work-based learning policy. So for eligibility, all participants must have a job or enroll into training upon completion of work-based learning. Work-based learning should take place at the end of the participant's enrollment and relate to the goals they have on their ISS. These are some of the prohibited activities for work-based learning. So nepotism, no relatives of administrative staff or work site supervisors can be hired. So they can't go work for their dad or their uncle. Political activities, they can't engage in political activities during work. For religious and anti-religious activities, they can't participate in religious or anti-religious activities. Now, we have had participants that have worked at daycares that are at a church, or they did like janitorial services at a church. That's okay. They just can't actively participate during church, like on Sunday morning during a sermon or whatever. For donation of wages, participants cannot be required to contribute their wages. Soliciting funds, fundraising activities are not permitted. This includes any form of fundraising, such as selling tickets, stuffing envelopes, or anything like that. Hazardous conditions, work must not involve unsafe or unhealthy environments. No discrimination. Participants should not replace or reduce the work schedule of regular employees. Worksite employment. The individuals already employed by the worksite are not eligible for the work-based learning program, so they already work there, they can't enroll. Funds provided for work experience may not be used to aid in the filling of a job opening directly or indirectly that is vacant because the former occupant is on strike or being locked out in the course of a labor dispute, or the filling of which is otherwise an issue in a labor dispute involving a work stoppage. The work sites can be public, nonprofit, or private organizations. Work site selection should correspond with the participants' expressed interest and objectives found on the ISS. So make sure they go together. Labor standards apply in any work experience where an employee or an employer relationship as defined by the Fair Labor Standards Act or applicable state laws exist. Participants can work on weekends, nights, or holidays if it is required by the worksite, but supervision must be provided. Prior to making a final worksite selection, make sure you're scheduling your on-site visits with your participants. I know I've said that over and over again, but we've had issues with it in the past. Make sure you go with them to their worksite. Decisions for worksite selection should include the case manager, the worksite supervisor, and the participant. The worksite will designate a full-time employee as a contact person who will be responsible for answering inquiries at the worksite and be available for assistance with resolution of worksite problems. The worksite agrees if a participant should accidentally damage equipment or property, no damages will be chargeable to the participants, the youth provider, or Sirius. However, the participant may be held responsible for the willful destruction of equipment or property. Okay, so the assignment to a worksite shall not exceed 390 hours total. 32 hours per week maximum is what they can work. Work sites there are not required to hire the participants when they complete their work-based learning assignment, but they're encouraged to transition the participants who are performing well into an on-the-job training contract. Work sites have to comply with child labor laws if they're employing youth under 18. So they need to have the child labor certificate, and Sirius is probably going to ask them for this. So most of them, if they already have done this before, they already have it, but they need to get it if they don't have it. Disciplinary actions. You need to counsel your participants with improper behavior and document any issues. The worksite should contact the case manager for intervention if needed. The participant can be terminated if deemed necessary by the worksite, but they have to let the case manager know, and then you need to let Sirius know. So these are some of the grounds for termination. We have to list them and go over them, just so they're all there and the participants understand it. The payroll vendor, like we said, is Sirius. So all the participants are covered by workers' compensation insurance through Sirius in the event of a work-related accident or an injury with the work-based learning participants. There is a list of approved and non-approved jobs in the staff resources, but additional jobs can be added upon request. Approved means the job duties have been approved by Sirius's workers' compensation insurance. So if you have questions about it, just ask them and they can get back with you and let you know if a job site is approved. So this is their current common job placement list. Any of these are fine. If you want to send your participants to work-based learning at these. These are some that they can't cover, and some of them are kind of odd. Like we had one that they wanted to do work-based learning with like a boys and girls club, and they had like horses and things, and it wasn't allowed because livestock's not allowed. And it doesn't seem like that would be too dangerous, but they didn't allow it, so they couldn't do it there. But so just make sure you ask anything, that's kind of different. For onboarding, once your eligibility is done, the case manager will fill out the placement form, send it to the Sirius email address at least 5 days before their start date. These are some of the things you need to really make sure you have filled out on the placement form. The grant funding source, so that'll be the local area, which y'all's is 1. So local area number 1, and then in-school or out-of-school youth. And then you need the timesheet approvers number 1's email and a timesheet approver number 2. Timesheet approver number 1 will be the case manager who is over that participant's case. The timesheet approver number 2 will be the case manager supervisor. It won't be the work site. We've had issues in the past with work sites. I guess they're busy. They get an email saying approve the time card and they just approve it without looking at it. And it's very, very hard for Sirius to go back once it's been approved. So make sure you're actually reviewing the time cards and that they are correct. You can also have Sirius if the job needs it, like any kind of drug tests or pre-hire screenings. They can take care of all of that as well. So Aviante is their timesheet, their system that they use. Participants will have access to this 24/7, and they can update their timesheets daily or weekly through a secure web-based submittal. They also have access to view any of their pay stubs and W-2s and download tax forms and update their personal information, and they can do it from their phone. Once the timesheet is complete, the time card approvers are notified through the same web-based program and through email. Participants have to submit their timesheets by Monday at 10 a.m. And then the supervisors must review the timesheets and confirm with the case managers so they can approve by Tuesday at 10 a.m. The worksite supervisors and the case managers have to review it for accuracy. The case managers are timesheet approver number 1, and the supervisors are number 2. Discrepancies must be resolved before approval. Email Sirius with issues before approving time cards, and you can contact that email address. It goes to multiple people, so somebody will see it and respond to you quickly. This is not required for you to use, but there is a worksite supervisor's timesheet if they want to email you this and what they're keeping track of versus what the participants are entering. It can help making sure that what they're entering is correct before you approve it. All right, so for payroll, participants can earn $7.25 to $19.66 per hour, depending on the job in the local area. The wages should be comparable to other employees in the same position. The payments are made weekly on Friday through direct deposit, or they can do pay cards. If they don't have a bank account, it's recommended that you help them get one because once they are finished with your program and get another job, they're going to need a bank account. It can be part of their financial literacy. Participants are paid only for the hours that they work. They're not paid for lunch or breaks or any time off. So these are the 4 forms that you need to make sure you upload for work-based learning. And are there any questions? On our YouTube channel, you can go to playlist and there's a WIOA Youth Providers playlist. There is a work-based learning training from Sirius that is straight from them that goes a little bit more in depth about what they do. If y'all want to see that, it may help more with the work-based learning. It's up to you. I will post these trainings and send them to you.